Hi, everybody, and welcome to our preamble to the Christ Festival, the Gemini full moon. The next 3 days, we'll be working on the keynotes, which it is said that the Christ emphasizes love, resurrection, and contact. And it will be at the same time here, which is 8 p.m. GMT. I'm still here in Phoenix, so it's the kind of the middle of the afternoon here, early afternoon, and I'll be with you for the next 3 days. And then Francis Donald will be working the next day at the same time with the astrological approach that we always do in our pre-full moon webinars. And then Tuya will be presenting the exact full moon time service meditation webinar, or it's a broadcast actually, and it's going to be beginning on the 9th. I think that's Friday the 9th at 11:30 a.m. GMT. So about an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes before the actual full moon. And in the chat box here, you'll be able to get that broadcast link. As far as the other links are concerned, I've sent them to you. You should be on the list there, and I think the links are slightly different for each day. For the love day, the resurrection, and the contact. And also, I think for the actual pre-full moon there, the webinar links are all a little different. So just look at the letter that I have sent you, or write to me, infinitize8@gmail.com, if you have trouble with having one of those links as necessary. Well, all right, this is a necessary preamble. It's so interesting when you look at the labors of Hercules in Gemini. You find that there are actually 5 tests that Hercules goes through in the Gemini labor. It's a rather extended labor, and thank goodness the Tibetan was able to write out in the form of an old commentary the nature of the labor. You know, later he had to cease that because Alice Bailey passed on, and so after Libra there was no more of the Tibetans writing as far as these labors go. But we get the idea that the sign Gemini is fairly involved. It's fairly intricate. And in the kind of work that we are doing in preparation for the Christ Festival, we cannot forget the manner in which the Buddha is involved. So this is a wonderful festival that links the wisdom of the Buddha with the love of the Christ. The emphasis is upon the love of the Christ particularly, but the wisdom of the Buddha is emphasized because his last sermon, the last sermon of the Buddha before he passed to nirvana, is emphasized by the Christ. So I think we'll just get into the work here. We're in the period before the full moon, quite actually 5 days, almost 5 days before the full moon. And we'll be focusing on the available energies and on the energy of love as it is hierarchically defined today. That will be our focus. Okay, so here we go. So we begin by realizing that the personality is the customary human being, but it is not the real human being. It is instrumental to the inner human being, which we are. Truly the spirit, really. So we begin by withdrawing our consciousness from the personality, from its various vehicles. We, the soul in incarnation, are doing this. That is who the true disciple is, the soul in incarnation. And we recognize the etheric physical body as instrumental, that is, external to our inner nature. And the astral vehicle, with its many states of attraction and repulsion, of desire and repulsion. This is also simply a vehicle which we use in the three worlds, but we're going to, for the sake of our meditation, withdraw from that. And the lower mind we withdraw, filled with so many thoughts, so many words or images, the old Raja Yoga formula, I have this vehicle, but I am not this vehicle. I possess, I work through, but it's not the essence of what I am. So we try to get a sense of ourselves as an expression of the soul, the expression of the higher consciousness. And as we allow the customary human being to fade out, this world of light, of spiritual love, of spiritual sacrificial will, this begins to fade in, to emerge. We imagine that we are taking our place upon the higher mental plane for the moment. And we're within, at least imaginatively, we're within the egoic lotus, the soul and body, the realm of quality, color, sound, virtue, where we are much higher beings than we seem to be when engrossed in the personality. And in this field of light, we begin to merge with each other, not as personalities, but as consciousnesses within the egoic field. We get the sense of the group soul. Of course, it's much larger than the little group we have gathered here to do the meditation. It includes the spiritually minded people of the world, the men and women of Goodwill, the true workers on behalf of hierarchy, the new group of world servers. We get the sense of being related to them in a unity. There are no barriers of the usual kind on the higher mental plane, and that unity can be appreciated. And finally, it's as if we have a relation with all human beings in their soul nature, whether they are in the body or out of the body, as St. Paul has said. Let your consciousness embrace humanity all over the earth. And in all of this, there really is no my soul or thy soul. There is this one consciousness with many apertures, many ways of seeing things. You know, it's like the mythical Argus with the 10,000 eyes, but we're talking about billions of eyes, and yet one consciousness. And so we allow to sink into our awareness this old and powerful little mantram, naught is but me. This is not the personal me, the individual me. It's the all-embracing I. Naught is but me. And here we are together, working imaginatively as if we were in the causal body, but also from the plane of mind from whence the Antakarana is projected. We bring the powers of the soul into our mental unit and collectively into our group mental unit. The virtues of all the petals accumulated, we bring those qualities into our group mental unit. And we focus on the group jewel in the lotus, not yet fully revealed, of course, but we focus on the will aspects that can come to us and which are necessary for our projection into the triadal realms, more closely related to the planetary logos than to our work below. So the will to initiate of the first ray, the will to unify of the second ray, the will to evolve of the third ray, the will to harmonize of the fourth ray, the will to act of the fifth ray, the will to cause of the sixth ray, and the will to express of the seventh ray. Our mental unit is as if fortified by will. And our creative imagination extends, as it were, to touch the intuitional level to help organize the substance of the imagination, which will pass through our retained substance on the mental plane, and we can visualize then the beautiful rainbow bridge realistically extending towards the monastic permanent atom, but also imaginatively extending into the spiritual triad and even beyond to the spirit. We're not really there yet, but we can imagine it, And there will be a return response from the higher aspects of the triad and even from the Father in heaven, the monad. That response will be forthcoming over the years as we practice. So we will realize that our rainbow bridge is colored with all the 7 colors of the spectrum, but 2 will stand out a bit more brightly depending on our soul ray and personality ray, but for group purposes we will use the indigo color. So just see your bridge colored by indigo, come in rapport with that quality, the quality of the great second ray. And a line of vivification of electric light suddenly is projected, and as that happens, we will inwardly pronounce the word of power, I see the greatest light, and outwardly we will sound the Om on one of the notes of the second ray, the note of the present solar system, the G. I see the greatest light inwardly. I see the greatest light. Excuse me. We'll pause and contemplate, hold in mind the connection we are creating to this greatest light of the monadic plane, the unfettered enlightenment of Shambhala. And from these high realms, wisdom will descend and will, and a great mental understanding, all this in time. So we hold the indigo, we hold the connection, we allow it to make its impression. And this takes us into rapport with the realm in which the masters habitually work, just as we work in the 3 lower worlds. And we offer our salutations, our cooperation to the great lords. Salutations to the Buddha, the Lord of Light and Wisdom. Salutations to the Christ, the Master of all masters. Salutations to the triangle of masters with whom we most customarily work, Master M, Master KH, Master DK. Om. Salutations to the Master M, the head of all esoteric schools and organizations. Om. Salutations to the Master KH, whose ashram does most to prepare for the return, the reappearance of the Christ. Om. Salutations to the Master DK. He has given us the blue books and is training the aspirants for the first 3 initiations. Om. And salutations to the entire spiritual hierarchy of our planet. We will to cooperate with the hierarchy, who are the custodians of the plan, and seek to see the plan manifest in the right and timely manner. We offer our cooperation. The reality of these great beings should dawn upon us, not in any fanciful way, but as they really are, as much as we can appreciate that. And I think Master DK has given us quite a realistic view of the hierarchy and how it functions. And now our imagination takes us to the center where the will of God is known. And with deepest reverence and in all humility as a group soul, we attempt, however slightly, to attune to the planetarily pervasive presence of Sanat Kumara, the Lord of the world, the King of Shambhala. And we seek to be imbued as a group by as much of his energy as we can absorb, the energy of divine purpose, the energy of divine will, however slight the impression may be. We who are cultivating the spiritual will seek to be imbued. And a long inner silent Om is what we pronounce inwardly. We recognize that such alignments of this as this are the beginning, but they are also the end. Alignment in the beginning and alignment at the end. The power of Gemini is growing stronger now. Mercury is revealing the pairs of opposites and the method of their union. Venus uniting the poles in love, in light, in wisdom, and the Earth is the hierarchical ruler. These three together under Gemini, and without Gemini, the sacredization of our planet would be much delayed. Gemini is deeply involved in this. We'll expand upon this, but we visualize Venus, we visualize Mercury, and the Earth. It is a triangle related to the twins in the oblong square that we find in that constellation. The Masonic square is there, the oblong square. And to our great logos, the heart of love, the heart center in a cosmic logos, we at least raise our imaginative consciousness, pouring forth love and wisdom. And we are all in this solar system units of love and wisdom. Immersed in the great blue logos, our true monadic home for as long as we are in this solar system. And the light of Gemini is increasingly available these days, the light of interplay, a line of light beams revealing that which opposes, or the basic duality of manifestation, the relationship of spirit and of form, the conscious light of that relationship, helping us understand soul and personality, spirit and matter form. And the two will become one under Gemini, and we will be able to serve the one eventually. I serve myself, I serve my brother, I serve the one. The many become one in Gemini. The forces of reconstruction are being released now, just as the forces of enlightenment were released at Waysack, and the forces which reveal the divine plan, the restoration of the plan at Aries. And we can attune with those forces that will allow the rebuilding of human civilization and the planet according to the plan and in the light. I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. This is the power of abstraction which allows us to stand back and take our place of identity within the soul nature and see that the customary man is no longer so important to us, but the man in the heavens, on the higher mental plane, is growing in the light, just the way the causal body grows, in its radiance, in its color, in its music. So we recognize we are the higher, more essentially the higher of the dualities. We are soul, we are spirit, rather than the outer form, matter. And we have to carry that consciousness with us and not let it slip away and become engulfed again in the glamour and illusion. And now we focus on our earthly representatives of the two great stars, Castor and Pollux, the Christ and the Buddha. They exemplify for us the great brotherhood which is taught in Gemini. Liberty, equality, fraternity. The three air signs, the three lords of liberation, and closer to humanity, the Christ and the Buddha, representing fraternity, the closest cooperation, the kind of cooperation we have to learn with all our associates and within our own nature. They represent the spiritual union of the East and the West, the Buddha in the East, the Christ in the West, the union of two hemispheres. It's happening. So important for the expression of the divine plan. They stand for the brothers in the light. Let's see if we can realize that. There's an amazing relationship between them. They've been cooperating so closely and will continue to do so during the greater span of the age of Aquarius. These are our two exemplars, and in the teaching of Master DK, sanctioned by the hierarchy and Sanat Kumara, the very close relationship between these two brothers is emphasized, and this is what we celebrate these days. As the Gemini energy gets stronger. and as we learn to relate all things. So we are in a period of preparation for the coming full moon, and we're told on that day, the full moon, the Christ preaches the last sermon of the Buddha before the assembled hierarchy and before the hearts and minds of all human beings. So we will begin preparing for that by listening to some words that the Buddha spoke to his closest disciple, Ananda. The term means bliss. Ananda means bliss. Herein, O Ananda, let a brother, as he dwells in the body, so regard that body that he, being strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful, may, whilst in the world, overcome the grief which arises from the body's cravings. Strenuous, thoughtful, mindful. And affirm within ourselves that we too, like the lion, Master Morya called the Buddha the lion, that like the lion, we can be strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful in the overcoming of the grief which arises from the body's cravings. And we resolve to be so. We seek eventual complete mastery over all these instrumental vehicles which before have held us captive. The great teaching of the Buddha must accompany us constantly. Along with that of the Christ. So we offer our profound gratitude to the Buddha for all he has done to illumine humanity. We thank him for the light, for the wisdom he has bestowed. And we refocus our attention on the great Lord, the Christ. And with the utmost heartful attentiveness of which we are capable, we listen inwardly, imagining that we hear the Christ sounding the great invocation. We allow a period for the silent absorption of his imagined sounding. On these days of preparation, on each of these days, the Christ is said to speak the great invocation alone, and then with others, the various verses. He will speak in a different language, perhaps the Pali language, but the meaning will as if come through. And again, listening inwardly with great care, we imagine the Christ and the entire hierarchy intoning the first stanza of the great invocation. We allow the deep significance of these words to enter our consciousness. And then keeping with the theme of light, light from the mind of God, from the mind of our planetary logos, from the mind of our solar logos. We imagine the illumination of humanity and the planet, so desperately needed, and we see an enlightened human race and our planet coming closer and closer to becoming a great station of light. That is the destiny of our planet, a great lighted sphere. As it becomes sacred, and the destiny of humanity enlightened, the light of Mercury and Venus will shine through humanity. And it is a great labor towards which the hierarchy is working over the centuries, and with which we will have to be involved also over the centuries, over the millennia. And now the keynote that we are using in this broadcast, this webinar. We realize, of course, we're broadcasting all over our globe, so for some it is, as it were, tomorrow, for some it is today, but we are fulfilling the general approach of the keynotes contemplated by hierarchy as we lead towards the full moon. And the first keynote, the keynote of love. This would allow us to contemplate the great keynote of love in its hierarchical sense, free from sentiment, from emotion, from personal emphasis, a love that sacrifices and understands, that acts with strength and decision, and that works on behalf of the whole, and not in the interests of any group or individual. Immerse yourself in what you understand of this type of love. That seeks the best for every human being, though that road may be difficult. This is the true love of the soul, and it goes beyond the normal human personality love. If we could begin to touch that in concert with the hierarchy. Just think of what it would mean to have this type of love for every human being we meet or hear of, not just because we like them or don't like them. That has nothing to do with it. This truly progressive hierarchical love, which helps every human being take their next step forward. How would we apply this love in our present life? So much separates the love of which we are capable from the love demonstrated by the Christ. It's a huge chasm. However, we are on our way. And those we criticize, those with whom we differ, those who offend us, those who horrify us, still the Christ has love for all such. And we have to learn without sentiment to do likewise. And so we affirm our solidarity with the Buddha, the Christ, the assembled hierarchy, and we seek to identify with them and to merge our purpose with their purpose. And imaginatively merging with them, we bless the world, the earth and all its beings on all its levels. We offer our blessing in the silence. And we pause for a moment of appreciation of the illumined, loving energies of the constellation Gemini, and feel ourselves imbued with these energies, which are growing in strength as the full moon approaches. Perhaps where you are, you will be able to see, well, actually, the position of the sun will be such that it will not be possible, probably, to see the twins, maybe in some places. But we can look at the pictures of the constellations and the starry sky and align ourselves with these great stellar lords. And so, as if in union with the Christ and the hierarchy, and all disciples in the world, we will sound today the first stanza of the great invocation, sensing the redemptive union of light and love. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. Friends, our next work will be same time, 8 o'clock p.m. GMT, and we will be working with the magnificent theme of resurrection. We have to understand how the sign Gemini is related to the seventh initiation of resurrection. Of course, the kinds of resurrection that we'll be talking about are of a much humbler nature, having to do with the emergence of human consciousness out of the material preoccupation. But all of us are rising, and every rising is a part of the great resurrection that we will achieve when we have reached one day the stature of the Christ at the seventh initiation. So I want to thank you very much for being here, and each one of these webinars has a little bit different URL for logging in. But if for some reason you don't have my letter that I sent recently, then let me know and I'll get it to you. Infinitize8@gmail.com. And we'll work again tomorrow on the great Gemini keynote of resurrection. And until then, we have plenty to keep in mind with the growing power of love, hierarchical love, in our life as we deal with all the people and the various beings who may come into our sphere of influence, and even those who we may never meet or touch or be with in person, but our thoughts are potent, and we have to learn how to think of all people as souls in the light of hierarchical love. So thank you for your presence, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.